You're watching Story Scroll. Real stories, raw emotions, and endings you'll never forget. Let's scroll into today's tale.
My wife and her family have been acting strange for months. Last night, I overheard something that made my blood run cold. I'm not even sure where to start, so sorry if this is long or messy. My head is still spinning and I haven't slept. My wife, 34F, and I, 36M, have been married for 9 years. Together for almost 12. We have 2 kids, 7 and 4. Like most marriages, we've had ups and downs, especially after a second child, but I genuinely believed we were in the rough patch but salvageable stage. Counseling had been mentioned. Divorce, at least to me, wasn't on the table. That's part of why the last few months have felt so off. The first thing I noticed was how calm she suddenly became. Not peaceful calm, strategic calm. Arguments that used to escalate would just stop. She'd go quiet, nod, and say things like, okay, if that's how you feel. No emotion, no pushback. At first I thought maybe therapy blogs had finally worked. Now it feels rehearsed. Around the same time, her family started inserting themselves into everything. Her mother began calling weekly to check on the kids. Her older brother suddenly had opinions about our finances, my job, even how we discipline. Family dinners went from warm to tense. Conversations would stop when I entered the room. I chalked it up to paranoia. I wish I hadn't. Then came the questions. My wife started asking weird, very specific legal questions, always framed as hypotheticals. What happens if a couple divorces and one parent was the primary caregiver? Who usually keeps the house if the kids stay with one parent? Is it better to have money in joint savings or separate accounts? Whenever I asked why she was asking, she'd smile and say, I'm just curious. Don't be so defensive. A few weeks later, she insisted we move money around for budgeting. She wanted to consolidate accounts, shift some savings, temporarily put a chunk into an account under her name because it's easier to track. When I hesitated, she accused me of not trusting her. Then paperwork appeared. She told me it was refinancing related, something to do with interest rates. She pushed hard for me to sign quickly. I asked for time to read it. She sighed dramatically and said, Why do you always assume the worst? I didn't sign. That led to one of the few arguments she actually engaged in. And afterward, she started documenting my reactions. I noticed her phone out more, recording voice memos, writing notes after we argued. She'd provoke me with little comments, then go quiet when I got frustrated. Intimacy disappeared completely. No affection, no warmth, just politeness. Like a coworker you don't dislike but don't care about. Her family's behavior worsened. Her mom stopped acknowledging me altogether. Her brother openly criticized me in front of the kids. At a birthday dinner, her sister let something slip. She said, well, after everything's finalized, it won't matter anyway. She froze when she realized what she said. My wife laughed it off. She meant the school stuff. Then my wife started hinting at divorce. Not threatening it, floating it. If we ever did divorce, I'd want it to be fair. I wouldn't take the kids from you. I never try to hurt you. Every time she said it, my stomach dropped. Last night is when everything broke. I woke up around 1 a.m. and realized she wasn't in bed. I heard her voice downstairs. At first, I thought she was on with a friend. Then I heard my mother-in-law's voice on speaker. I stood at the top of the stairs. I didn't mean to spy, but then I heard my name. She was laughing, actually laughing, joking about how he still thinks we're just having problems. Her mom told her to stay calm and keep pushing his buttons. Her brother's name came up. So did a lawyer's. I heard them talk about taking the house because the kids won't be uprooted, about full custody because I'm emotionally unstable, about draining the savings before he catches on. My wife said, word for word, by the time he realizes it'll be too late. Then she said something I can't get out of my head. We've been planning this for 3 months. He's not as smart as he thinks. I felt like I couldn't breathe. My hands were shaking so badly, I had to sit down on the stairs. I didn't confront her. I don't even know how I managed that. I went back to bed and pretended to be asleep when she came up an hour later. Today, I called in sick to work. I spent the morning staring at my kids while they ate breakfast, trying not to cry. Every memory feels fake now. Every conversation replays in my head like evidence I ignored. I feel humiliated, betrayed, terrified. I know now that I've been played, not just by my wife, but by her entire family. And the worst part is realizing they were willing to take my kids from me like it was just another asset. I haven't said a word to her. I've been calm, normal. She seems relaxed, almost cheerful. I made one phone call this afternoon to a legal clinic recommended by a coworker. I have an appointment tomorrow. I need advice. Please, do I confront her now or stay quiet? How screwed am I if they've been planning this for months? Is there any way to protect myself and my kids? Or am I already too late? I feel like my whole life is about to collapse, and I don't even know which move could make it worse. Update. First, thank you to everyone who commented and messaged me. I read everything. I didn't reply much because I was busy doing exactly what a lot of you told me to do. Shut up and get a lawyer. The morning after I posted, I met with a divorce attorney recommended by the legal clinic. I went in expecting to hear that I was already screwed. Instead, the first thing she said after listening to my story was, "You did the right thing by not confronting her." Apparently, what my wife and her family were planning wasn't just cruel, it was manipulative and in parts illegal. The attorney explained that premeditated attempts to hide assets, drain accounts, manufacture instability, and interfere with custody can backfire hard if documented properly. She told me 3 things immediately. Secure every document related to finances, property, and the kids. Record conversations only where legal, and keep a written log of everything. Do not sign another piece of paper, no matter how urgent or harmless it seems. Walked out of that office calmer than I'd felt in months. That night, while my wife was out with her sister, I started gathering documents. I copied bank statements, tax returns, mortgage paperwork, insurance policies, anything with both our names on it. I scanned everything and stored it securely. I also checked our shared email account and cloud storage. That's when I found the first real crack in their story. There are emails between my wife and her mother discussing moving money before the conversation happens. Another message from her brother suggested putting certain savings somewhere he can't touch easily. I also found text messages from her sister coaching her on how to stay calm while he melts down, so it would look bad later. I forwarded everything to my lawyer. Next came a financial countermove. Under my attorney's guidance, I opened a new account in my name and redirected my paycheck there. I didn't drain joint accounts. That would have hurt me, but I made sure no more money flowed into them. We froze joint credit lines and credit cards. I changed passwords on everything personal: email, banking, cloud storage, even streaming services. I cataloged valuables and secured personal items that could disappear. All of this was done quietly, legally, methodically. At home, I played my role. I acted confused, sad, desperate. I told my wife I thought we were losing each other and suggested counseling again. I asked if we could start fresh. I watched her relax in real time. She became confident, almost smug. She started slipping up, making comments about how things will be different soon and how she just wants stability for the kids. She pushed paperwork again. I said I needed time. She didn't push as hard anymore. I think she thought the clock was already on her side. She had no idea it wasn't. 3 days later, my attorney called and said, "If you're ready, we move now." That night was the flip. I filed first. Divorce petition, emergency custody motion, financial injunction preventing either of us from moving or hiding assets. Everything was ready because of the prep work. Evidence attached. Timelines laid out. No emotion, just facts. My wife was served the next day. Not at home, not privately. She was served at a family dinner at her parents' house. According to the process server, her mother started yelling immediately. Her brother tried to take the papers. My wife apparently went completely silent, then started crying and saying there had to be a mistake. She came home furious. She accused me of betrayal, of ambushing her, of being cruel and calculating. Then she switched tactics and claimed I was abusive, emotionally unstable, and dangerous. That didn't last long, because when my lawyer requested evidence, there was none. No police reports, no witnesses, no documentation outside of her own notes. which conveniently began right when her planning did. Her family started sending me messages, threats disguised as warnings. You don't know who you're dealing with. This won't end well for you. I forwarded every single one to my attorney. Reddit was right about one thing. Once they realized I wasn't panicking, they escalated. But here's the thing. They escalated emotionally. I escalated legally. The kids are safe. They're with me half the time under temporary orders. They don't know details. They just know mom and dad are working some things out. As for me, I'm exhausted but clear-headed. They spent 3 months planning in secret, assuming I was clueless. I spent 1 week listening, documenting, and moving quietly. This isn't over yet. I know that. But for the first time since I overheard that phone call, I don't feel powerless. I feel prepared. I'll update again when there's more to tell. Final update. I waited to post this until everything was finalized. Not because I forgot about Reddit, but because I needed to know how the story actually ended before I try to put it into words. The short version. The plan my wife and her family spent 3 months crafting collapsed under its own weight. The long version starts in a courtroom. From the very first hearing, it was clear things weren't going the way my wife expected. Her attorney opened confidently, pushing the narrative they'd clearly rehearsed. Me as emotionally unstable, her as the primary caregiver, the children needing consistency. But then my lawyer began presenting evidence. Not dramatically, just methodically. Bank statements showing attempts to move funds. Emails between my wife and her mother discussing hiding assets. Texts from her brother advising how to provoke reactions. The draft divorce settlement created months before any separation discussion. The judge stopped taking notes at one point and just looked at my wife. When the issue of custody manipulation came up, the judge asked her a simple question. Why did your documentation of your husband's behavior begin at the exact same time you began consulting a divorce attorney? She didn't have an answer. Her lawyer tried to pivot, tried to argue stress, confusion, family influence. But the damage was done. The judge openly stated that what was presented looked like a premeditated attempt to manufacture leverage, not a spontaneous marital breakdown. At one point, the judge actually said, "This court does not look kindly on parties who attempt to game the system at the expense of their children." I will never forget the look on my wife's face when she realized the narrative had flipped. The outcome wasn't dramatic, it was decisive. The house was ordered to be sold, with proceeds split fairly. No forced displacement, no last-minute grabs. Custody was awarded jointly, but with me as the primary residential parent due to the instability created by her actions. She was ordered to pay a significant portion of my legal fees. A financial injunction remains in place permanently regarding certain accounts she attempted to access. And perhaps most importantly, the judge issued a formal warning to her family. Any further interference would have consequences. They are no longer welcome to insert themselves into custody or financial matters. Outside the courtroom, everything imploded. Her parents blamed her almost immediately. I overheard her mother saying, "We told you not to rush this." Her brother disappeared entirely once lawyers started mentioning subpoenas. Her sister cut contact completely. I think guilt finally caught up. My wife tried to talk to me afterward. Not to fight, to reconnect. She said she never meant for it to go this far. That her family pushed her. That she panicked. She asked if we could start over for the kids. I told her no. Not angrily. Not triumphantly. Just honestly. Because somewhere in those 3 months of planning, something fundamental broke. And I realized I could never trust someone who saw me as an obstacle instead of a partner. The kids are doing well. They're in therapy. We keep routine stable. Mornings are calmer than they've been in years. There's laughter in the house again. They don't know the details, and they don't need to. They just know they're safe and loved. As for me, I'm rebuilding. New routines. New boundaries. Quiet evenings where I don't feel like I'm being watched or measured. I'm not rushing into anything new. I'm learning to enjoy peace.
Thanks for watching Story Scroll. Hit that bell and stay tuned for the next story that will move your heart.